May the force be with you is a phrase used to wish a person well to overcome a challenge. The invitation in this podcast, May the life force be with you, is to explore what it means to truly feel alive, to appreciate the physical, emotional and spiritual connection to our energy, and finally to understand how this impacts who you are and all that you do. May this conversation inspire you to thrive.
G'day, Kahreela.
G'day, Fiona. We're not in the same time zone. Are we?
Are. Yeah,
Are we actually in the same time zone?
We're both in Australia.
We're both in Australia.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy at the same time for very different reasons. I'm here because if anyone listened to previous episodes, they might have heard Kahreela talking about Australia, but I couldn't. And we realized on one of the episodes, I'm like, we're going to be in the country at the same time, but I couldn't share it because I'm here to surprise my friend of 46 years for her 50th birthday. So I couldn't let on that I was coming over because it was a complete surprise. And I last Friday jumped out at a restaurant in Sydney, and any of our friends that know us and have seen the video are like, we have never seen her speechless. She was just like, and she's looking around and you can see her brain going, can anybody else see Fee standing here? Because she's like, yeah, all of our other friends. And they're all looking at her and she's just like going, what the fuck is going on? Can anybody else see Fee or just me? What? So it was a perfectly coordinated surprise. So I couldn't let on that I was coming here. But obviously you have shared with us your landwork journey of why you're here. So how has it been, if that's not too crazy a question to ask? I guess that's a whole series in itself. But how are you and how's Australia been for you?
Firstly, I just want to say I've seen that video. And for anybody listening, it is like literally, I don't think I've ever seen somebody so surprised. It's such a good expression. It's just amazing. And what a beautiful, amazing thing to do for a friend, hey?
Yeah, it was really special.
Way to the other side of the world to let her know she's loved.
Mm-hmm.
That's gorgeous.
It is. I'm grateful. It's been great. And also I was very much in need of a break. I was hitting burnout. I'm not ashamed to admit, even though that's what I do for a living, is help other people with that. Sometimes when we feel we have the tools at our disposal to help people, we don't often listen to our own messages. And it was perfect timing for me to be able to come away here, and the enforced time zone difference meant I had to take a break. So everybody was a winner.
Sometimes you have to force a break, for sure. I am currently looking out the window and I can see a kangaroo. I'm definitely in Australia.
That's amazing. And yesterday I saw some whales leaping out of the ocean. So yeah, you don't get that in Brighton, kangaroos and whales. No. So tell us, where are you and what you've been up to this week?
I'm in a place called Wagga Wagga, which I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
It's Wagga Wagga, and apparently locals just say Wagga.
Wagga, yeah, I'm in Wagga. And I'm integrating a very big piece of land work that, this land's incredible. And it's also Uluru, which is part of where the work was happening, is the solar plexus of the world. And the solar plexus, for anybody that don't know, is all about power and control and mind and ego. And you know what I concluded after? Okay, so when you journey with land, what's amazing and what's different from doing self-work is you meet things you wouldn't necessarily meet about yourself. Because when you self-work, you tend to go in with an intention that is about something you want to sort out in your life, right? And so it tends to be very much through the view of how you perceive yourself. Whereas when you do service work, the self-work when you do service work, especially to the land, the self-work that you do becomes about what the land wants you to do, what the land wants you to shift in the greater body of your humanity. And and then you meet things that you would never necessarily meet on your self-work journey, because you would never think to be like, I'm going to go meet my colonizing shadow, as an example.
You think of the morning when you get up, I think today I'll just go meet my colonized shadow.
Exactly. Yeah. I know what I want to work on today. And what Uluru, who is kind of the mountain overlighting this journey, even though there were many other lands and places and magical spots that were part of this. I feel like it was, I was in Australia for 22 days with it, and I was definitely journeying with it before I came to Australia. And really what Uluru wanted to purge was the old paradigms, forms of power and control. Like power, in the new earth, power is love and love is power. But in the old earth, those two are separate. And in order for them to become united, the old paradigms of what they meant and how they exist and why they exist have to be broken down. And broken down within what is coded into the land, within the scar tissue of the land, but also broken down within the archetypes and the patterns that human beings hold. They're not fun.
When you're doing that, you said it's like the difference between like self and then working with everything on the land. So there's like the sort of inside outside kind of combination.
There's no difference.
There's no difference.
You are the land.
Yeah.
And so the land purges through you.
So you're basically feeling the energy of like everything that's happened on the land. Is that what you're saying? And there's a lesson in that?
You're feeling the energy of what you're there to work on.
Right. I was just about to say, or you're picking up on what you need to receive from it, like everything, right? Like everything that we do and how we live our lives and how we interact. There's that message of, you take what you need, what resonates, what you need to hear, like all of those things. And I know that's a broad brush way of saying it, but you are receiving what you need to from the land in the context of where you are. Is that a way of kind of layman's terms putting it?
Kind of. But also if you're called to land work, and I believe more and more people are going to be, you're called to do something very specific, like a very specific recoding of a piece of land.
So does that mean you in turn are then almost like taking on that energy, working with it, healing, and then putting it back into the land so that there's a healing element then goes back into that. So the next generation that comes along, there's a different energy to that land?
Kind of, you're restoring. And actually, especially with every land is different. but especially with here, because it's solar plexus, a lot of the restoring and coding happened through things coming up and the people that were part of that journey doing things differently.
Okay, I've just got to pause on the solar plexus for a second. Because when you said it, I went, huh. So, you know my weirdy beardy shit that I do when I'm here? I don't know why I'm saying that to you, because to you it's like absolutely normal. To other people, the weird stuff that I do when I'm here. I went back to my quantum uplift place and I did the quantum red light therapy. Go back and listen to previous episodes, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. I did a new treatment this time called PEMF, which is like electromagnetic pulse. Let me get the exact wording. Pulsed electromagnetic field psychology. And this second I went in that machine, he's like, where do you feel it? I'm like, oh my God, my diaphragm. And he's like, have you got any, like, have you had any issue there? And I was like, well, I had a collapse lung as a kid. And I'm like, it just got me there and on my hips. And it's only now, and that's just 5 days ago, it's only now that you say that, I'm like, it's my solar plexus. This is exactly where it hit me first. And I was in so much pain there for like 2 days afterwards. But that's obviously where that electromagnetic field energy went. It went right there. Isn't that interesting? And I never connected the two until you said it just now. It was my solar plexus.
That's amazingly synchronistic.
Isn't that crazy?
It's also
in Australia.
And Uluru is the solar plexus. And one of the things that I learned, and this is probably relevant to what you've just said. So in meeting all of the like ways in which we go into control rather as a form of power, which is the old form of power, hey? Like the only thing you can control is the flow. And so it's like the contractions in the solar plexus, the relationship dynamics that play out, everything is a contraction around the flow. Does that make sense? It's like trying to
fight against
control of the flow.
Yeah.
And
obviously go with it, you're trying to fight it against it.
But you're just trying to you're trying to steer it, to rule it, you're contracting the solar plexus around the flow. And the flow really is the energy of life. You know, like the solar plexus is kind of like where the energy of the earth, the power of the body flows through into the heart and empowers the heart and creates, you know, it's interesting because the Aboriginals talk all about dreaming. And in a way, it's like what I understood is like dreaming is in solar plexus land is about being able to dream things into physical reality. And the flow is that power to, it's that creational power, you know? And actually that is what the journey ended up being about. Like the final ceremony of my pilgrimage was on country, which is Aboriginal land. And the elders gave us permission to do that ceremony, which never happened. And one of them joined us in the ceremony and co-created the ceremony with us, which never happened.
That's so amazingly profound and special. It really is. It must have been
amazing. It's amazing. Like, it doesn't happen.
Wow.
But when I say like how you recode, there's many ways to recode the land, but probably one of the most powerful is for something different to happen. And in terms of like human relationship with each other and power and story and colonialism, that seed of us being together in ceremony is the forgiveness happening, is the new earth happening, is the energy not flowing through those old power paradigms, those old control patterns, but through flowing up into the heart. And that moment is then absorbed as a seed into the land. And for, in order for that to happen, the reason land work's such a pilgrimage is in order for that to happen, all the old stuff had to be cleared. Because otherwise you code the seed with the old stuff as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, you still got all the residual stuff there. You have to make sure you're working from a clean slate.
And
not bringing it all with you again. It's not changing.
And the thing is if you contract around the flow, and in a way, like the old paradigm of power is contract power. Because power and love is separate. So contract power is like, I'm going to create a contract with you or with this in order to overpower it or contain it or control it. Yeah. And colonialism is the kind of collective manifestation of contract power. And I think but because contract power by its nature cuts you off from the flow of energy, from the magic of the earth, from, the nature of, like the land here, you will know this is fluid. Like the trees are fluid, everything is flowing here because that's true power. If you cut off from that by creating contract, then by naming without listening, by trying to control what's growing there, like creating fake borders, all of it. Essentially what you do is you create a state of survival mode. And the West, see, I always used to think that like the survival mode was in the cultures that had been oppressed, but the West is in survival mode.
Yeah.
Because there's this permanent state of feeling cut off from the flow and the true power. And what I've come away from, and honestly, I had it from all angles. So I had experiences where I was feeling like colonized and contracted and overpowered. I had other experiences where people were accusing me of that. I like had it from all angles, met every possible version of this really at my core nervous system wound level. Really.
Well, you mentioned that there was someone from the Aboriginal community joined you in that work. How did that feel to you? Because obviously, in Australia, there's this very polarizing, culture where in some places there's like deep respect for, the Aboriginal culture, and people really passionately want to have more voice and want to, respect and honor elders. But and the land more, and then you've got the complete opposite of that going on at the same time as well. So how did you feel you were able to have that conversation? Because I stay well clear of it, because I'm not knowledgeable enough, and I'm fearful that I would offend by saying the wrong thing. How do you, not with any intention obviously, but it is such a sensitive subject, how was that approached, and then how did you win that, I guess that's not even the right word, but how was that trust formed where you actually then had a member of the community join you in that work? How did those walls get broken down?
The trust wasn't formed so she's a very revolutionary woman. I actually kind of want her to come on series 2 because I think it would be amazing. Mm-hmm. And so she's very forward thinking. The trust.
Well, that's interesting though, isn't it? Because that is really how it should work, where there's a meeting of the minds, and it takes, you say forward thinking and progressive, but it takes both of people from both of the sides to be that, right? It's not a case of, hey, you need to come over here and meet me here, and therefore I see you as progressive. It's like, no, other side needs to be able to move across that line and be progressive and understanding and open as well. And it's not just one side being progressive. It has to be that meeting of the two to make it really impactful, in my opinion.
And she tuned in. She felt it was the right thing. She also trusted the people who also trusted me. So this took a community, because people that she knew here knew me and vouched for me. And so there was this whole, and also ultimately the land grants you passage. If the land wants something to happen, the land will grant passage, and it does. That's what's amazing and magic about land work, is like you are let in to things you wouldn't be let into in magical, synchronistic ways. But in terms of, I don't feel like I could have shown up in the way I needed to. Because, I have to be honest, there was this moment of completely freaking out just before the ceremony started. Because we were under a birthing tree, which is where the women used to give birth under. There's loads of placentas, 600 years worth of placentas buried under there. There was this moment of just being how do you do something like this without causing more harm and more hurt and being more Western colonialism? Not that it's even Western, because actually everybody's been quite our Age of Pisces was about people land grabbing off each other, So actually, it's a much deeper thing in our DNA, but and a much deeper thing in our story and identity, and But how do you do that? And I feel like if I hadn't had the journey that I had, which I have to say was a bit of it was very to the bone and to the nerve, and it was hard in so many angles and in so many ways. But I don't feel like had I not had that journey, I wouldn't have had enough empathy. I wouldn't have known how to listen, not truly listen.
Oh, that's
profound. That is where we meet each other. Yes. Is when we stop talking story at each other and start listening.
So progression, that we talk about being progressive, actually at its heart, being progressive is listening.
Yeah.
It really is, isn't it? Art of listening. without
And
judgment.
that's what the elders say. They say, like, listen, come to the land and listen. But, you know, when you're in survival mode, you can't listen. Like, when you're in survival mode, you stop being able to listen because you're expending and extracting so much energy just to survive. And that's why we've got to drop out of, like, I'm coming away from Australia with this new intention of, like, I want to check in about whether I'm coming through survival mode or through preciousness.
What does preciousness feel like? I think we all know what survival mode feels like, but tell us what the other one feels like.
So it was part of my journey with the preparation of and the ceremonies that also coded, you know, or the healing journeys were also part of the restoring code that Uluru had. And preciousness is basically the way of being that is like, I'm precious, you are precious, and all of life is precious. And if your choices are not serving that, you're in survival mode.
It really is that simple and also extremely difficult at the same time. Because what you said, theoretically, you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But it's the without judgment is one of the hardest things for people to do. And that comes back to the listening, appreciation, service, some of the other things that we've talked about as well.
But every time we do it, we recode the earth. You know, like, for example, I've got this, you know, how the universe put me in survival mode to see all these patterns is it put a series of, like, tower cards in my path, like, where, like, things that were secure to me and safe to me just collapsed under me, through me, and including some of the, like, financial things that were going to be funding Australia. And I can feel my tendency, because suddenly, like, the financial plan has changed, to go into survival mode around that. And then I can also feel this, like, willingness to want to do things preciously. Like, there's part of me that wants to just do some tithing with the money I have, regardless of the fact that, like, my survival mode logic is like, that is not wise right now. Because either we energize the preciousness or we energize the survival mode.
Yeah. What do we give into? What do we allow rather than what do we create? And nothing is a permanent state either. Right? It's not, hey, if I make this decision, I'm in survival mode for the rest of my days, or this is something I can't get out of every day, as we know, is an opportunity. I feel like there's so much synchronicity with people's lives, energy, things that are happening to them right now. And I know there was Lionsgate Portal 8.8. I feel like a lot of people had a shift, around that time, sort of separate to this conversation as well. But it just feels like a lot of people's life phases. There's so many people I know buying or selling or moving homes right now. There's like a real shift of, like, homes, shelter, what is our kind of safety, but there's a lot of people under massive financial pressure as a result of all of that as well. So they're kind of in that survival mode. People looking at changing lifestyles, careers, where they live. Like, I feel it's all around me right now, like big decisions. And with that comes, interestingly, we usually make big decisions because of a need to create change, whether enforced or desired, but it always puts us in survival mode for a little while, even if we know the end outcome is something we truly desire, and the outcome will make our lives more fulfilled and whatever that means to us. But I think big change always comes with those moments of, we can call it survival, and also the oh shit moments. What ifs? And we get stuck in a little bit of the what ifs. Okay, what if this is a really bad idea? What if I shouldn't do any of this? What if this all goes wrong? But as I say, in any of those moments, there is an opportunity for it to change. Nothing is forever. And those survival moments actually are, hopefully, I wish for everybody, fleeting. But when we look back at the whole timeline of our lives, they usually are short moments that are intense and deep, so they can feel like there's a reverberation that's going to last forever. But it doesn't last forever. They are short.
The thing is, in every moment of survival, there is also the field of preciousness right there, that you can just choose instead. And in a way, I'm like, there's a sense, and everybody's talking about it. It's going to happen when we all drop, where we all just stop choosing survival mode.
But even for like that, those little moments where you're like, I'm just not going to let this bother me right now. In this second, I'm just going to go, yeah, that's okay. God, it's empowering. Oh, that person, they're a bit annoying. I'm not going to let that into my field today. I'm just going to let that one slide. And every time you just go, I'm just going to let that one slide. I feel nice today. And that all the circumstances can be the same around you that they were 10 minutes ago, but your inner world has changed because you're not taking that energy of the circumstance, other people, the imagined worry. You know, the thing about, whether, the Mark Twain quote around there's bad things that happen, and some of them, actually did. Massively paraphrasing, lots of bad things happened to me in my life, and some of them were, actually were real. So we spend so much time in our heads imagining. Sorry to Mark Twain for butchering that quote. But there's comfort in staying in survival mode. It feels delicious to be caught in trauma because our body goes, oh yes, a feeling that I'm familiar with. Thank you very much. That keeps us fired up. Oh, that keeps the fire stoked for a little bit. Don't be pouring any water and calming that down. Thank you very much. And so we like to kind of keep that story playing around in our heads because it feels comfortable. But actually that peace, that preciousness, gosh, that openness, solar plexus expansion, all of that comes from going, okay, yeah, not today. I'm not going to let that in. Even if just for a moment, fraction of a thought. That's recoding as well. That's a recoding in the head.
I love it. Can you hold your solar plexus open? In these times of great change.
Yeah. It's early in Australia, so my thoughts are not fully formed on that, but because we never know what we're going to talk about. Well, we do, but it leads us in many different directions, and yeah, it's just a little just a moment of reflection that what feels hard today will be in the past tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing for the rest of your last weekend in Australia?
today I am attending a cacao ceremony.
Oh, I've just had some morning cacao. Still off coffee, so I've had some cacao this morning.
And I need to integrate. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really exhausted.
Well, do that. Give yourself permission. Permission granted, Kahreela, for you to just chill out today. Do nothing. Enjoy the nothingness of just seeing what comes up and looking at kangaroos. I'm going to be walking on beaches, hopefully watching some whales and practicing some hypnotherapy on some friends. And, of course, watching some rugby and watching my godson play rugby on Sunday, which is very exciting. So, I can't come to Australia and not watch rugby. So that's for me. So, yes, both out in nature and in culture. So, enjoy the rest of your day. Be peaceful.
The rest of yours. Say hi to the whales for me.
I will. Gosh, they're just everywhere. You can just see them breaching on the horizon. It's so beautiful. So, yeah, going to go and sit and look at the horizon for an hour or so this afternoon. So send in love, everybody. Let's speak soon.
May life force be with you. We hope this conversation has topped up your life force energy. If it has, then please help us spread the life force. Like, share, subscribe, all of that. And may the life force be with all of us.